Daniel was not a man who lived in the spotlight. He was a janitor on a big space station that floated between the stars like a silver coin in the dark sky. People passed by him every day without even saying hello. He cleaned floors, fixed leaking pipes, and made sure every hallway was neat and quiet. He wore a simple gray uniform, carried his mop and tool bag, and walked slowly, always lost in his thoughts. But Daniel's real world was not in the hallways. It was in a small storage room he had turned into a little home. In that room were 2 small beds with soft blue blankets. On the wall were drawings made with colorful pens. There were small shoes by the door, a box full of old storybooks, and 2 laughing faces that made every tired day worth it. Those faces belonged to his adopted twin daughters, 2 little alien girls who could not hear a single sound. They were born from a different world. Their skin was a soft glowing silver, and their hair was pale like winter snow. Their eyes had a natural shine, like stars trapped in crystal water. Their names were Lyra and Sari. When they were just babies, they had been found abandoned near the cargo bay of the station. Nobody claimed them. Many people said taking care of them would be too hard. But Daniel didn't listen. He had lost his wife years ago and lived alone. When he saw those little girls shivering in the corner, something in his heart spoke softly. He didn't need a big reason. He just knew he had to protect them. Raising 2 deaf children was not easy. Daniel had no experience, no special skills, and not much money. But he had patience. Every day before his work started, he sat with Lyra and Sari at a small wooden table. He held their hands gently and taught them simple hand signs. When they learned how to sign Daddy, they smiled so wide that Daniel cried that night when they fell asleep. He felt proud even though no one else saw it. The space station was loud and busy. Ships came and went. People from different planets rushed through the wide halls. Nobody really noticed the janitor and his twins sitting near the old pipes. But Daniel didn't care. He built a world for them in small moments, a shared smile, a soft hand sign, a warm meal. Every morning, Daniel woke up before the first transport arrived. He carefully brushed the girls' soft hair, helped them put on their little jackets, and made them a warm drink from the only small kitchen machine he owned. Then together they walked to his workplace. Daniel pushed his cleaning cart and the twins followed behind like 2 quiet little shadows. They loved sitting on a small metal step in the maintenance hallway, where the warm air blew out from the big vents. They would draw with their colored pens on pieces of paper Daniel saved from the recycling bin. They didn't need sound to feel joy. They had each other. One day, as Daniel cleaned the hallway near the lower docking level, the girls sat in their usual place. Lyra was drawing a big starship and Sari was trying to draw a flower. Daniel knelt beside a loose pipe, fixing a leak with his old tools. His movements were slow and careful. He hummed a tune out of habit even though the twins couldn't hear it. But they could feel his soft rhythm when he tapped the floor with the tool. They laughed without sound, their shoulders shaking. Daniel lifted his head and smiled at them. He signed with his hands, asking, "Are you okay?" The twins quickly signed back, "Yes, Daddy." Their small fingers moved fast and their faces glowed with happiness. Daniel remembered the first time he tried to learn their language. It took him months to understand their signs. He had made so many mistakes, but the girls never gave up on him. They laughed, they repeated, and little by little they taught him their world. After fixing the pipe, Daniel sat beside them. He pulled out a small communication device from his pocket. It was an old one that helped them understand simple voice commands. The device was broken again, and Daniel promised them he would try to fix it. It was not perfect, but it was their little bridge to the hearing world. Sari gently touched the device with her small silver fingers, looking at Daniel with trusting eyes. She couldn't hear his voice, but she could always read his face. Daniel opened the back panel of the device and started working with a small screwdriver. He didn't have all the parts, but he had learned how to repair things with patience and creativity. Lyra signed something funny to Sari, and the 2 girls laughed again. They leaned against Daniel's arm, warm and safe. For them, this small, quiet hallway wasn't just part of a station. It was home. A group of workers walked past. None of them stopped to say hello. To them, Daniel was just a janitor with 2 strange alien kids. But Daniel never let their coldness reach the girls. He always smiled, always showed them they mattered. As the day went on, Daniel wiped the floors, fixed small problems, and checked the machines. The girls followed him everywhere. When he climbed a ladder, they clapped their hands silently. When he finished a task, they waved their fingers to say, "Good job." Daniel didn't need medals or awards. This was all he ever wanted, to keep them safe, happy, and loved. By evening, Daniel carried them back to their small storage room. He made them a simple dinner with the food packs he saved. Lyra sat on his lap while he signed a bedtime story. Sari curled up with her small stuffed toy. The room was quiet, but it was full of love. Before they went to sleep, Lyra signed, "Daddy, are we safe?" Daniel smiled and signed back, "Yes, always safe with me." The girls closed their eyes, trusting him completely. Daniel sat by their beds for a while, watching their small chests rise and fall. In that soft silence, he thought about his life. He didn't have riches. He didn't have fame. But he had something that made him richer than most. 2 little girls who called him Daddy with their hands. He didn't know what was waiting for him outside that small room. He didn't know that someone powerful was about to step into their simple world. But at that moment, he didn't need to know. He only knew love, and love was enough. The stars outside the station shined quietly. The station was alive with engines, lights, and travelers. But in that small corner of the lower deck, a human janitor and 2 deaf alien twins slept peacefully, wrapped in a warmth no machine could create. Tomorrow would be another day of... The next morning began just like every other day. The space station was already awake when Daniel opened his eyes. A soft hum came from the walls as the engines pushed the station gently through space. Daniel stretched his arms, rubbed his tired eyes, and smiled when he saw Lyra and Sari still sleeping peacefully. The twins always looked like 2 little stars curled up in their small blue blankets. Daniel stood up quietly and made a warm drink from the old kitchen machine. It hissed softly, filling the room with a faint smell of sweet steam. He then knelt beside the girls' beds and gently touched their small hands. Lyra opened her eyes first. She smiled without making a sound. Sari followed, blinking sleepily. Daniel signed to them, "Good morning." "Sunshine." The twins giggled and returned the sign, "Good morning, Daddy." After brushing their soft silver hair and helping them put on their small jackets, Daniel took them out into the hallway. The station was busy as always. Workers walked fast. Robots rolled past carrying boxes. The intercom made soft beeps that the twins couldn't hear, but Daniel could. He always kept a small notebook in his pocket to write things down for them if needed. They reached the lower maintenance deck, their favorite place. It wasn't fancy like the upper levels where the rich and powerful people lived, but here, they had space to draw, play, and be near Daniel while he worked. Daniel pushed his cleaning cart down the long hallway. The twins walked behind him, their little shoes tapping softly against the floor. They reached their warm metal step near the big air vents and sat down with their colored pens and paper. Daniel knelt near a broken pipe and started his first task of the day. This simple scene of a janitor and 2 alien girls seemed ordinary. But above them, something special was happening. A royal shuttle had just entered the station. The guards at the main gate stood in perfect rows. The royal banners were hanging. It was the arrival of the alien queen. The queen had not visited the lower decks for many years. She was respected and loved by many. She wore long silver robes and a light crown that shimmered like soft moonlight. She walked with a quiet grace. Most people thought of her as distant, but she carried a hidden sadness that few knew. Many years ago, she had lost her twin daughters during a political conflict. She had searched for them across planets, stations, and colonies. Every lead ended in silence. Over time, the world thought they were gone forever. But the queen never stopped feeling the emptiness in her heart. This morning, she had decided to visit the lower levels without much warning. She said she wanted to see how ordinary people lived on the station. The guards followed her, but she walked ahead, not wanting to make the visit loud or formal. She passed through bright halls, then quiet corridors, moving closer to the maintenance deck, closer to Daniel and his girls. Down in the hallway, Daniel was repairing the communication device for the twins. It had stopped working again. Lyra sat beside him, watching carefully. Sari leaned against his arm. Their little faces showed both hope and excitement. This small device meant a lot to them. With it, they could understand a few spoken words through soft vibrations and lights. Daniel unscrewed the back panel, cleaned a loose wire, and reconnected it. When he pressed the small button, the lights blinked softly. The twins' eyes lit up. Sari gently placed it against her chest to feel the faint buzz. She looked up at Daniel and signed quickly. "It works." Daniel grinned, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Of course," he signed back. "I promised you, didn't I?" They laughed silently together, their shoulders shaking. It was a small moment, but for them it was everything. Just then, the air in the hallway changed. Daniel didn't notice at first, but the workers passing by suddenly stood straighter. The security drones slowed down. The sound of footsteps echoed softly, slow, calm, and full of authority. Daniel turned around and froze for a moment. The alien queen was walking toward them. She was tall and elegant, her silver robe flowing like water. 2 royal guards walked behind her, but kept a respectful distance. Her eyes scanned the hallway with quiet strength. She didn't look angry or loud. She looked curious. Daniel stood up quickly, a little nervous. He wasn't used to important people visiting the lower decks. No one of her rank ever came here. He brushed his hands on his uniform, feeling shy and unsure. The twins didn't notice her at first. They were still laughing and signing to each other. The queen stopped a few steps away from them. Her eyes fell on the twins. For a brief second, her entire body stiffened. Her lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. The 2 little girls, small, silver-skinned, with shining eyes, looked almost like a memory she carried deep inside her heart. Daniel lowered his head respectfully. "Your Majesty," he said softly, not sure if she could hear him over the noise of the hallway. The queen didn't answer at once. She kept staring at the twins. Every little detail matched the faces she had lost so long ago. The markings behind their small ears, the shape of their silver eyes, even the way their hair fell softly on their shoulders. Her hands trembled for the first time in years. One of the guards whispered to her, but she raised a hand gently, stopping him. Sari finally turned and noticed the tall figure standing behind Daniel. She blinked, confused. Lyra followed. Both girls tilted their heads. They had never seen someone who looked like them except in old photos Daniel showed them. The queen slowly stepped closer. Her heart was beating hard. She was the ruler of her people, but right now she was just a mother who saw something she couldn't believe. Daniel didn't understand what was happening, but he could feel the weight of that moment. The hallway, usually filled with footsteps and chatter, felt silent in his ears. Even the soft hum of the machine seemed to disappear. The twins stood up slowly, holding each other's hands. Their little fingers squeezed tight, a sign they used when they felt unsure. The queen's eyes softened as she looked at them. For a moment it felt as if time itself had stopped. Daniel stepped a little forward protectively, placing one hand on the twins' shoulders. He didn't know who this woman truly was or why she was staring like that. All he knew was that these girls were his world and he would not let anything hurt them. The queen saw that gesture. It wasn't grand. It wasn't loud. But it was full of love. And in that small act she felt a strange warmth fill the emptiness inside her heart. The guards waited for her signal, but the queen didn't move. She simply stood there, frozen between power and a memory. Daniel gently signed to the girls. "It's okay. Stay close." Lyra and Sari nodded. They didn't know who the woman was, but they trusted their dad completely. The queen took another soft step forward. The lights on the ceiling reflected gently on her silver robe. Her hands were slightly shaking now. She had come to inspect the station, but she had found something she never expected. That was the moment when 2 worlds, one of quiet love and one of royal power, finally met. The janitor, the twins, and the queen stood in that hallway, each of them holding their breath. None of them knew that this meeting would change their lives forever. The twins didn't understand yet. Daniel didn't know the truth yet. But the queen was staring at the faces of the children she thought were gone. And deep inside, a part of her heart began to wake up again. The hallway was quiet. No one spoke. No one moved. It felt like even the station itself had stopped breathing. Daniel stood protectively in front of the twins, his hand resting gently on their small shoulders. Lyra and Sari pressed close to him, their little hands clutching his work uniform. Their bright eyes shifted nervously from his face to the tall woman in front of them. The alien queen did not blink. Her silver robe shimmered softly under the white lights. Her eyes stayed locked on the twins. For everyone else, she was a figure of power and grace. But inside her chest, her heart was racing fast. The small marks behind the twins' ears, only royal children had them. Their silver hair and bright crystal eyes were the same as the daughter she had lost. For years she had searched every star system, sent out every kind of scout, offered every reward she could. But no one had found her children. She had stood at windows staring into the stars, wondering if they were alive. And now, right in front of her, in a dusty maintenance hallway, she saw them. Daniel's heart beat loudly in his chest. He didn't know why this woman looked so shocked. He only knew she was important. Her guards made that clear. One of them took a step forward, but the Queen raised her hand without looking away from the girls. The guard froze. She didn't want anyone to interrupt. Sari tilted her head. She touched Daniel's arm and signed, "Who is she?" Daniel quickly signed back, "She's important." "Stay with me." Lyra squeezed her sister's hand tightly. Their soft silver fingers intertwined, a quiet promise to stay together. Then slowly, the Queen stepped closer. Each step echoed lightly in the hallway. The guard stayed behind. Daniel didn't move. He didn't trust easily when it came to the twins. They were his whole world. When the Queen was close enough, she knelt down. No one had ever seen her do that in front of anyone. She was the ruler of a proud people. But right now she was not acting like a queen. She was acting like a mother who had just seen her lost children. She raised her hand slowly and reached toward Sari's face, but stopped halfway. She didn't want to frighten them. She wasn't sure if they would let her touch them. Her eyes softened. The twins stared at her face. For the first time, they noticed the shape of her eyes, the way her hair fell over her shoulders. She looked like them. Not just a little, but completely. The same soft silver skin, the same starry eyes, the same gentle glow around her. Sari whispered and signed to her sister, "She looks like us." Lyra nodded slowly. "She does." Daniel didn't understand their private sign, but he could see the confusion growing in their faces. The Queen's eyes filled with tears she didn't try to hide. She raised her hands and began to move her fingers carefully in the ancient sign language of her people, a language only royal families were taught. It was an old way to speak to those who could not hear. When the twins saw her hands move, they froze. Their eyes widened. They understood her signs. Not fully. Daniel had taught them their own version, but the core of the message was clear. The Queen signed gently, "My little ones, my stars, my daughters." Lyra and Sari stared at her hands like they were watching a miracle. Their hearts beat fast. They had never met anyone else who used that special old sign language. Daniel never learned it. He had made their own signs for daily life. Sari shook her head in confusion. "Daughters?" She signed to Lyra. Lyra looked up at Daniel, then back at the Queen. She signed slowly, unsure. "Are you talking to us?" The Queen nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks. Her hands trembled as she signed again. "Yes, my daughters. I thought I lost you." Daniel's breath caught. He didn't understand the signs fully, but he could see the girls reacting as if something huge had been said. "What's going on?" he whispered softly. Lyra turned to him with wide eyes. She placed her small hands on his and signed clumsily, trying to explain. "She says, we are her daughters." The words hit Daniel like a wave. He blinked, unable to speak for a moment. "Her daughters?" he whispered aloud. The Queen took another step forward on her knees, still signing softly. "I searched for you. I never stopped. You were taken from me. I love you." Sari stepped a little closer, not out of fear, but out of something deeper, a strange feeling in her heart. She stared at the woman's face, the same shape of eyes, the same gentle glow around the skin. A warm memory she didn't even know she carried rose inside her chest. Lyra followed her sister, slowly moving forward too. Daniel's hand dropped from their shoulders. He didn't stop them. He couldn't. He was trying to understand what was happening. The Queen raised both her hands and gently brushed a tear off her cheek. Her lips curved into a small, shaking smile. She reached out carefully, and this time Sari didn't move away. The Queen's fingers touched her cheek softly. It was warm, gentle, and full of love. Lyra joined her sister. The Queen held both of their small hands in hers. The hallway felt quiet again, but this silence was different. It wasn't cold or tense. It was soft and full of emotion. Daniel took a small step forward. His throat felt tight. He wanted to say something, but didn't know what. For years he had been their father. He had raised them, fed them, taught them to sign, stayed up late when they were sick. He loved them more than his own life. And now someone powerful, A queen was standing here claiming them as her daughters. A part of him felt scared. Another part felt protective. And another quiet part whispered, maybe this is the truth they deserve to know. The queen turned her eyes toward Daniel. Their gazes locked. There were no angry orders, no loud demands. Only a silent understanding between a mother and the man who had cared for her children. Daniel swallowed and asked softly, You're saying they're yours? The queen nodded slowly. She wiped her tears and stood up carefully, still holding the twins' hands. Yes, she said softly, her voice calm and warm. They are my daughters, lost long ago, and now found. The twins didn't fully understand the weight of those words. They only felt a strange warmth when she held them, like a missing piece fitting into their hearts. The workers in the hallway watched in silence. Some had tears in their eyes. No one dared to speak. Daniel's hands curled into fists at his sides. He wasn't angry at her. He was scared of losing them. But when he looked at the queen, he didn't see someone trying to take them away. He saw a woman who looked broken and whole at the same time. The queen slowly knelt again to the twins and signed, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm your mother. I love you. Lyra and Sari didn't know how to answer, but they didn't pull away. They touched her hands back, a quiet answer that only children can give. For the first time in years, the queen felt warmth filling the empty space in her heart. Daniel took a slow breath. He stepped closer and knelt beside them. Whatever happens, he whispered to the girls, signing with his hands at the same time, I'm here. I will never leave you. The twins turned toward him. They placed their hands over his, a soft sign that meant family. The queen watched that small, silent moment. She understood something very clearly. These girls were not just hers anymore. They belonged to him, too. The lower hallway of the station felt heavier than usual, but not in a bad way. It was the kind of quiet that came before something big. Daniel stood a few feet away from the alien queen, his hands resting nervously against his uniform. His heart was beating too fast. He had no idea how a janitor like him was supposed to talk to a queen. The twins were standing between them, holding hands tightly. Lyra's soft silver hair brushed against her little shoulders as she turned her face from Daniel to the queen. Sari's big bright eyes were wide open, searching for something, maybe answers, maybe comfort. The queen didn't move for a moment. She simply looked at them as if memorizing every small detail she had missed for years. Her hands trembled slightly as she raised them again and began to sign slowly, clearly as if afraid to scare them away. She signed, I love you. I never stopped looking for you. The girls didn't look away. Their hands began to move hesitantly. Lyra signed back, you say, you are our mother? The queen nodded softly, her eyes shining with tears she didn't hide. Yes, she signed back. I am your mother. Daniel took a deep breath, feeling his throat tighten. The words felt heavy even though no sound came from their hands. He had always known that one day the past might find the girls. He just never expected it to be like this. He had found them when they were small, abandoned, alone, and silent. He had built his entire world around keeping them safe. A royal guard shifted in the background. The queen raised her hand to keep him back. She didn't want anyone to interrupt this moment. She slowly knelt again in front of the twins. The way she moved was careful and full of emotion. Her robe touched the cold floor, but she didn't care. She signed again. I thought you were gone. Every night I prayed to see your faces again. You are my heart. Sari stepped a little closer, not quite touching her, but curious. She looked at her sister, then at Daniel. Lyra stayed still, but her small fingers squeezed Sari's hand a little tighter. Daniel walked forward slowly. His boots made soft sounds on the floor. He knelt beside the girls, not to block them, but to be next to them. His eyes met the queen's for the first time without fear. He didn't bow this time. He looked at her as another parent. She's saying she's your mother, Daniel said gently to the girls, signing each word as he spoke. But no matter what happens, I'm still here, always. The twins turned their heads toward him. Their little faces softened. They trusted him. They had trusted him every day of their lives. The queen's lips trembled. She could see it, the bond between them. It wasn't just care. It was love. Real deep love. The kind that couldn't be bought or ordered. She turned to Daniel. For a moment, they both said nothing. They didn't need to. Their eyes carried different stories, hers full of loss and hope, his full of years spent raising the girls in the shadows. Finally, the Queen spoke softly, her voice low but steady. "You saved them," Daniel blinked. He wasn't used to being noticed, let alone thanked by someone powerful. "I just took care of them," he said quietly. "They're my family." The Queen stepped closer, still holding the girl's hands. "No," she said gently. "You gave them love. That is more than anyone did when they were lost." Lyra watched them carefully, not fully understanding all the words but feeling the weight of it. Sari looked between the Queen and Daniel, her small brows furrowed like she was trying to hold two worlds in her hands. Daniel gently signed to them, "It's okay. You can talk to her. I'll be right here." The twins nodded slowly. The Queen let out a shaky breath. "When they were taken," she said softly, "I thought I would never see them again. I lost hope many times, but I always held their names in my heart." She looked down at the girls and signed their names. Lyra, Sari. The exact same way Daniel had been signing them for years. The twins froze when they saw her hands move in that familiar way. They signed their names back without thinking. The Queen's tears fell freely this time. She pulled them gently into her arms. For a moment, time stopped again. Lyra and Sari pressed against her silver robe, feeling her warmth. She held them like a mother who had found the missing pieces of her soul. The girls didn't pull away. They didn't cry, but their little hands slowly wrapped around her too. Daniel watched silently. His chest felt heavy. His heart ached, but it was not an ache of loss. It was a strange mix of love, fear, and something he couldn't name. The Queen held the girls for a long moment, then slowly released them and turned toward Daniel. "I owe you everything," she said softly. "Without you, they would not be alive. They would not have grown like this." Daniel shook his head. "You don't owe me anything," he replied quietly. "I did what any father would do." The Queen looked at him deeply. "Yes," she whispered. "Any father?" The guards watched from a distance but stayed silent. They could feel this was not a moment for orders or royal commands. It was something pure. The Queen knelt again and looked at the twins. She signed, "I want to know you. I want to be in your life. But I will never take you away from the one who raised you. I promise." Lyra and Sari's eyes filled with emotion they couldn't fully explain. For years they had only had Daniel, and they loved him more than anything. But now they had found someone who shared their face, their history, their language. Their small hearts were trying to understand how love could stretch to fit more than one person. Daniel knelt beside the Queen. Their hands almost touched the floor at the same time. "I don't have much," he said softly, his voice shaking slightly. "I can't give them a royal life, but I gave them everything I could." The Queen's eyes softened. "And that is why they are strong," she said gently. "You gave them love, not just comfort." She turned to the twins again, signing slowly. "You can have both. My world, his world. Your world? No one will take you away from the love you already have." The girls looked at each other. Then Lyra signed, "We don't want to lose Daddy." Sari signed, "But we don't want to lose her too." The Queen's eyes filled with warmth. Daniel's lips trembled, but he smiled softly. "You don't have to lose anyone," he signed back. The twins stepped forward. One held the Queen's hand. The other held Daniel's. Their little hands joined both worlds together. It was silent, simple, and more powerful than any royal speech. Daniel felt a lump in his throat. The Queen looked at him and gave a small, genuine smile, an expression she hadn't shown anyone for years. In that quiet hallway, under the plain lights of the lower deck, a mother, a father, and two children found a way to share love without taking it away from anyone. The guards lowered their heads slightly. Even they felt something in their hearts. This was not a political event. This was a reunion written in quiet signs, soft touches, and trust. Daniel didn't know what would happen tomorrow. Maybe their lives would change forever. Maybe the station would never be the same. But in that moment, the girl still held his hand tightly. That was enough for him. The Queen whispered softly, "From today, we are not strangers anymore." Lyra and Sari nodded. Their little hands stayed locked in both of theirs, and for the first time in many years, the Queen's heart felt whole again. Daniel's heart, though unsure of the future, felt strong too. Love, silent and steady, filled the hallway like soft light. The janitor, the twins, and the Queen stood together. 4 lives tied not by power or status, but by the expected such a story to unfold on the lower decks where quiet workers lived their ordinary lives. People whispered in the corridors. Some guards stood taller when they passed by Daniel now. Even the officers who used to ignore him began greeting him with small nods. But Daniel didn't care about attention. All he cared about were Lyra and Sari. The twins still followed him every morning, holding his hands as they walked through the same hallway. Nothing about his love for them changed, but everything around them slowly began to. The Queen had returned to the royal deck after that first meeting, but she didn't disappear. Every day she sent messages through her guards asking to visit the twins. She came without a large crowd, without royal drums, without fancy speeches. She came quietly just to sit with them, sign stories, and listen with her eyes. The twins were shy at first. They had grown up only knowing Daniel's world, a small storage room, warm blankets, and the hum of the air vents. The royal world felt big, bright, and a little scary, but the Queen was patient. She never forced them. She let them take small steps at their own pace. Daniel often stood in the background watching their meetings silently. He saw the way the Queen signed their names, the way the twins slowly began to open up to her, and the way their smiles grew a little wider each day. It was a strange feeling for him. He was happy for them, but he also carried a quiet ache deep inside his heart. One morning, the Queen sent a soft invitation. She wanted Daniel and the twins to come to the royal deck for a quiet gathering. No crowds, no reporters, just family. Daniel hesitated at first. He had never set foot in the royal part of the station. He felt out of place just thinking about it. But when the twins tugged at his hands and signed, "Ah, please, Daddy," he couldn't say no. They took the lift to the upper deck. The doors opened to a hallway so bright and clean it felt like stepping into another world. Gold and silver decorations covered the walls. Soft lights shone like stars. Royal guards stood on both sides, but their faces were calm and respectful. The Queen stood at the end of the hallway. She wasn't wearing her heavy crown that day. She looked less like a ruler and more like a mother waiting for her children. When she saw the twins, her face softened into a smile. The twins ran forward, their small shoes tapping lightly on the floor. They signed excitedly to her, showing her the new hand games Daniel had taught them. She knelt down, laughing silently with them. Daniel stood at the entrance, unsure if he should take another step. But then the Queen turned to him and said softly, "You belong here too." Her words made him pause. He wasn't used to belonging anywhere except the lower decks. Slowly he walked forward, the soft carpet feeling strange under his boots. They sat together in a quiet room filled with warm lights and soft chairs. A table was covered with books, small toys, and communication devices. The Queen had prepared everything carefully so the twins would feel safe. The girls climbed onto the soft carpet and began playing. They showed the Queen how to draw shapes with their fingers in the air, a game they had invented with Daniel. She joined them with a gentle laugh. Daniel stood near the wall, watching again. But this time the Queen gestured for him to sit too. He walked slowly to the chair beside her. The twins ran back to him and sat on his lap, their little hands wrapping around his arm. They didn't forget him. They never would. The Queen looked at him with quiet eyes. "I have thought about everything," she said softly. "They are my daughters by blood, but they are also yours by love." Daniel blinked, unsure how to respond. She continued, "I cannot take away the years you gave them. I don't want to. I want to share their world with you, not steal it. They should grow up knowing both sides of their family, where they came from and who raised them." Her voice was calm and warm. She didn't sound like a queen giving orders. She sounded like a mother making a promise. Daniel swallowed hard. "They're my life," he said quietly. "I promise to protect them." The Queen nodded. "And you still will. But now, you won't have to do it alone." Lyra leaned back against Daniel's chest, signing, "Daddy, this place is pretty." Sari signed, "But we like our home too." Daniel smiled at their signs. He gently brushed their hair away from their faces. "Home is wherever you feel safe," he signed back. The Queen watched the soft moment between them. She didn't feel jealousy. She felt grateful. Over the next few weeks, the royal deck became a place the twins visited often. But they never moved away from Daniel's small room. They still slept under the same blue blankets, drew on the same recycled paper, and shared the same warm drinks in the morning. The queen would sometimes join them there, sitting on the floor of that simple room with no gold or silver. She would remove her robe and sit with them as just a mother. The royal guards learned to wait outside without disturbing them. The twins loved both worlds. They would run through the big royal gardens with the queen during the day, then sit in Daniel's lap at night, asking him to sign them stories about stars and dreams. One evening, the queen came to Daniel's small room after the twins had fallen asleep. She stood by the doorway and watched them for a long time. Lyra and Sari were curled up together, their hands touching even in their sleep. Daniel sat nearby on an old stool as he always did. The queen whispered, "They are safe. Because of you." Daniel looked up at her quietly. "They saved me too," he said softly. "I had nothing. No reason to wake up every day. But they gave me that reason." The queen walked in slowly. She looked down at her daughters, her eyes full of emotion. "I want them to grow up with love, not just with titles," she said. "And you give them that love." For the first time, Daniel didn't feel like an outsider in front of her. He felt like someone standing beside her, equal in one thing: love for the twins. She turned to him. "I would like you to become their official guardian, not as a servant, as their father." Daniel's chest tightened. He didn't expect those words. For a moment, he couldn't speak. He just nodded slowly. The queen gave a small smile. "Then from this day on," she whispered, "they have two worlds, but one family." Outside, the stars shone quietly around the station. Life continued as usual. But for this small family, everything had changed. The twins had a mother who found them. They had a father who never left them. And now they had a future that didn't ask them to choose between love and blood. Weeks later, people from all levels of the station watched as the royal balcony opened for the first time in years. The queen stood tall, the twins holding her hands. But on the other side, standing proudly, was Daniel in his simple gray uniform. The crowd cheered, but the twins weren't looking at the people below. They were looking up at Daniel and their mother. Their small hands reached out and joined both of theirs together. It wasn't just a royal story anymore. It was a story of love found in the quietest place, of a janitor who became a father, and of a queen who learned that love doesn't live only in palaces. And as the stars sparkled outside, the twins smiled, their hearts finally at home in both worlds.